Glenn Dixon, and performed by our nephew Joshua Fluent Eggington.
Listen to the stories as the elders again explain how your culture flourished before the Europeans came. Find why it's important, your strength must never wane. Noongas need the spiritual, like dry land needs rain. Seeking temporary, traditional come together on stage. Guitars weeping, drums thumping in angry's rage. Hurt, fear, frustration, escape the poet's cage. While haunted digits echo deep from a forgotten age. Observe the women dancing and weaving to sing a song. History's mysteries from whence your soul belongs. Forget urban landscapes, get back to where you were strong. Search for hidden answers from which your spirit belongs. Hear rhythmic black performance cause bars, crowds to sway. Soulful mesmeric lyrics put broken hearts on display. More words of hope and freedom offered a brand new day. As daylight kisses darkness, children laugh, dance and play. Kayana, means to survive. Kaya Kayana, reach Noonga strive. Kaya Kayana, culture on display. Kaya Kayana, celebrating indigenous way. Kaya Kayana, means to survive. Kaya Kayana, reach Noonga strive. Kaya Kayana, culture on display. Kaya Kayana, celebrating indigenous way. May our campfires burn forever.
May our campfires burn forever. I looked out over the first Kayana gathering in 1991, when at the centre of the gathering, the corroboree, we had a burning flame which represented all of our people who had died inside custodial institutions across this country. And in looking at the flame, from my mouth came the words that for 30 years has been the maxim for Dummatong and has become known right throughout this country: may our campfires burn forever. As I look out here today, this is a massive rally for Perth. It's a massive rally, and it's good to see that there's people of all different racial, cultural backgrounds here. It's good to see that the Black Lives Matter mob have turned up. The CFMEU, Murdoch University mob. We've got concern in our community, and we've got a righteous anger as Aboriginal people. But of course we are a people of great dignity. So here we are today to give tribute to all of our young people who have died at the hand of brutality and racism in this country. Rest in peace, and he's not buried as yet, young Elijah from Kalgoorlie. But let's not forget the death by those in uniform and badges of a young 16-year-old boy in Roban all those years ago, John Pack. Let us not forget young Cleon Jackman. You can't even describe the torture when he was locked away in a basement at Maddington and by 4 members of the Ku Klux Klan, was brutalised beyond the media being able to give description of what they did to his body. Rest in peace, our little brother. Let's not forget that young 11-year-old girl out there at the Maddington Primary School that had a whole can of pepper spray sprayed into her eyes because she had a little pair of plastic cutting scissors waving around in the air. A whole can of pepper spray. And let's not forget all of our young people who every night as they venture out from their homes, our son was one of them, would catch the train systems with the brutality, the monsters that guard the systems called West Rail Security. They brutalise our young people in this city every night of the week. Perth is the most racist city in the most racist country in the world.
Time to stop it!
As our communities plunge into darkness,
enough is enough!
And into chaos, I would like to give our respects to the great northern tribes of the Yamatji nations, the Waru and the Bardi peoples, the Warman peoples of Turkey Creek in the Kimberley, the Larrakia, the Warlpiri and the Yolngu people of the Northern Territories, the Binthi and the Wandle tribes of Cape York, and the Lardle people of the Gulf areas, the Cockatoon peoples and the Murray nations of the East Coast, and the great Gadigal peoples of the Eora nations, the Palawa people of the island of Tasmania, the Yorta Yorta and the Kuris of the eastern southern lands, our brothers and our sisters of the great nations of the Nunga people, the owners of Uluru, the Pitjantjatjara, the Arunta and the Gurindji people, and the great nations of the Wongai peoples of the Western Desert Block. Our spirit is one with you. We stand united on the lands of our ancestors and the ceremonial grounds of the oldest culture on the most ancient landmass on the earth. Today our hearts bleed with you. We become one in spirit and one in our struggle to resist and to stay alive against all the assimilative attacks to destroy our bloodlines and our identity. We have entered a spiritual warfare, the last bastion of genocide. Before all is lost, we have little time left to fail. I give my respects to all the mothers and fathers who have lost their children and have fallen broken and bleeding, finding a way through the darkness and the most painful suffering that can ever be inflicted on life. In the special bonds of realism that connects the special enlightenment of surviving that loss, the healing is within our will to accept the strength that prevails, the wisdom that changes our hearts forever as it dies inside of our very existence of flesh and blood. We understand your pain and we are in your shadows. Our cultural and our spiritual experiences gives us signs when we as Aboriginal people are about to be moved to either accepting unseen warnings or the visions to prevent the inevitable. The split in the universe that reveals that fate will never be determined by the mind nor the heart. It is not for us to know. As the jitty jitty dances, death falls all around us. One of the hardest things in life for our young people is to simply stay alive. The infant mortality rate and adult mortality rate for the life of Aboriginal people in this country compared to non-Aboriginal people is its greatest shame. The privileged, affluent white lifestyles that are founded on the minerals below Aboriginal lands reap the impoverished existence of our bloodlines that trace back to the great Jidda, the first dawn of time, as we, the Bibbulmun people, merged from the granite foundations of the great Prongerups, the oldest granite formation on the earth that pinnacled the earth's surface 1,000 million years ago. Our people were forcibly dispossessed and disinherited from our ancestral lands by means of genocide, and the most violent Holocaust ever vexed against a human race of people on this planet. We have come to know the white man's ways. We have come to know of his brutality, his racism, his hatred and bitterness. Most importantly, we have come to know his trickery, deceit and lies, his expectation that turns to treachery, like fool's gold, as the richest per square metre of land on the planet, the Golden Mile, the super pit, now lays like the grave site for all humanity, whilst wide Australia turned away from the plight of the Wongai people as they entered the extreme impacts of genocide and death. Many crossed the song lines of the circumcision lines that separated our laws for entry into Noongar Budja, for needs such as health care and survival that now lay helpless in Wellington Square, in full sight from the windows of the State Health Department, the Department of Indigenous Affairs, the mental health officers, the Red Cross, the Save the Children institution, the Next Step alcohol and drug programs, and the Royal Perth Hospital, the Catholic Archdiocese office, and the cathedral. Sleeping cold on the wet grass and the brick-paved pathways as they who walk past turn away from the despair and the destruction of the lives of these once great people. Our leadership is broken, fractured and nullified. Our people pursue the elite academic government-appointed positions that are appointed by government to ensure that their policies of death are strategically carried out against our people, as institutionalised racism is embedded into every bureaucracy of the government. These so-called leaders are and have a real common similarity of the old black trucker that were once used on the killing fields, that were afforded the king plates as conformist negotiators, while those in chains and shackles had pride in their eyes. The story has never changed and it remains the same. I'm sick of seeing our great Yonga kangaroo skin cloaks, our sacred burial robes being taken into Parliament House by Aboriginal members to impress the white politicians that show descriptions of symbols of sacred stories that they claim as their own, that belong to the Central and the Western Desert Aboriginal culture. This is a great shame on the theatrics of how our culture is treated by those who claim to be our spokespeople at national levels as they walk lost and futile around the corridors of the white man's greatest chamber of control of colonisation, Parliament House.
Woo!
Playing politics with their privileged elite of black academia appointment to endorse and implement the politics that destroy the lives of our people. They fly 30,000 feet above the problems of their people. They eat from five-star menus in luxurious hotels with travel allowances that make the pensions of our people look like petty cash. They wallow in self-grandeur and applaud their worthlessness, self-centred ego, whilst our young are thrown into prisons and die at early ages.
Shame!
They seek the attention of the Australian media that is conservative, serving the interests of the rich and the powerful. The media creates deceit and pollutes the minds of people with the degradation of lies as they spin the dice against the human rights of Aboriginal people at every given chance. These same people attempt to create bonds of interest with journalists with no integrity or dignity. They flirt their filthiness to attract the attention of cheap media-covered politics and photo shots with ruthless journalists such as Andrew Bolt, Paul Murray, Alan Jones, and the many others. Aboriginal affairs in our country has become a lucrative business for many. We see our financial resources being allocated to non-Aboriginal agencies, sporting academies and church groups. It seems our resources are allocated everywhere other than in our community itself. This indicates that self-determination is low on the priority of the Indigenous advancement strategy of the Prime Minister and Cabinet. This leadership needs to be pulled down and destroyed forever. Tomorrow, the Royal Commission into the brutal treatment of our young people at the Dondale Centre commences. Ironic as each real-life experience somehow sends the last one into pale insignificance, we must show our young people that there are many of us who they can trust and respect. Not all have sold out and conformed to a moderate existence, accepting the white man's gifts of subserviency. We are engaged in a continued secret war in this country, where we lose more of our young people to modern-day genocide at the hands of the colonial oppressors than Palestinian lives are lost in the Gaza Strip. However, the deaths of the young people in the Gaza Strip is covered by international worldwide media, whilst our young Aboriginal people die and hardly a whisper is raised.
That's right!
I heard an elder say, I may be a woman, in grief of the loss of pain and suffering of my flesh and blood. Land, religious belief systems, my language, my children have been stolen away. I have lost my humanity, and yet if this is as good as it can get, I will survive. With a smile that I know that I must put you down for a while. Our young people are restless, driven with a passion of change, street warriors that have learnt the hard way and give of life so easy, it reckons with the courage of the most devastating outcomes. Imagine turning to stone, there is no turning back, coming to a place of solace. It's all unheeded warnings, and they've got no navigation home. Across the skies, they see their shadows fly. They fight against the system that ruthlessly enforces assimilative attempts to capture their spirit in a world dominated by education and religious Christian beliefs. Manipulated by values and morals that corrupt wisdom, truth and decency. Their screams are heard for the wisdom of our spirituality as our ceremonial ochre, our ancient paint, drips down from tiers of a grabby halo just above the heads of our elders as they say their last goodbyes. We have little time left to fail. My message to our young people today is that we must stay true to our cultural beliefs and our spirit and our old people's way of life. We must respect each other. Know you are from the most ancient peoples on this planet. Never surrender your birthright to our budja, the land. Never become what they want us to believe we are, and know that the ones of us who seem to hate are the ones that love the most. When you are all alone in the great unknown, trust yourself. And never allow the final breath to be seen by the white man as giving up. And know that the white man's poison is killing us. We can run, we can walk, and we can crawl to freedom. However, we can never stagger to freedom. The great Palawa leader, Truganini, saw massive death and suffering as their homeland island was shattered with grief forever. As the soldiers cornered them, the shotgun blasts echoed across the Southern Ocean, and from the cliffs they fell bleeding into the great Southern water. This is Dumbarton's last public rally. This is our last protest. This is our trail of tears, suffering and pain after 37 years in the cold-faced front lines of our community. I remember my first ever public speech was with the late Lenny Colbund. We spoke about the then recent death of John Pat, a young 16-year-old from Roban, killed by police officers with badges and uniform. Today, it is with a respected rest in peace for young Elijah from Kalgoorlie, killed by a man in a fluorescent shirt. May you all keep our campfires burning forever. I'm just going to share one thing with you here that certainly puts a lot of understanding into just exactly where Indigenous people in this country interests lie. It's called the Pyramid of Racial Power and Privilege in Australian Society. Up the top of the pyramid, you've got the power base, the Anglo-Celtic, English, Welsh, the Scottish and the Irish. Their top tier of power is in major political posts owned by the Anglophiles. Senior bureaucrats, media, academic, military, security, legal and finance, celebrity, sports and entertainment. In the top part of the pyramid, you've got other Anglophiles, the Dutch, the Germans and the Boers. Their tier of power is in senior bureaucracies and businesses. In the middle of the pyramid lay the Southern Europeans, the Italians and the Greeks, the Asians, the Vietnamese, the Chinese and the Indians. Their tier of power is in labour, agriculture and service industry. Down the very bottom of the pyramid, you have the Arabs and the Muslims. Their bottom tier of power is in basic services such as cleaning and customary service. Shamefully, just on the left side of the pyramid is Indigenous Australia. This is where our power lies. In unemployment, in jail, in homelessness, and in early death. May our campfires burn forever.